Hi, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. This is episode 53. On this week's episode, we're going to have a two-part episode today. In the first segment, we're going to be talking with Mr. Jeff Porter of Lubezone. Jeff's going to give us a little history of Lubezone and what their plans are in the near future. In the second segment, we're going to visit with Lieutenant Doug Laferty from the Arkansas Highway Police Department and talk about some current issues from the eyes of the DOT. But first, let's hear from Vickie Chastain on this week's Need to Know segment, sponsored by Aero Truck Sales.
What is a dry bulk commodity? A dry bulk commodity is a raw material that is shipped in large unpackaged parcels. Dry bulk consists of mostly unprocessed materials that are destined to be used in the manufacturing production process. Dry bulk commodities are usually divided into two categories: major bulks and minor bulks. Some examples of major dry bulk commodities include iron ore, coal, and grains. These major bulks account for nearly 2/3 of the global dry bulk trade. Minor bulks include steel products, sugars, cement, and cover the remaining 1/3 of the global dry bulk trade. I'm Vickie Chastain, and that's this week's Need to Know segment.
So, Aero Truck Sales, great sponsor of the Oakley Podcast. We have known these guys for years, dealt with Trey, dealt with Keith up in Springfield, Missouri. These guys are solid. We have confidence in them, and that's why we recommend them to all of our owner-operators to look into them if you're interested in buying a truck. They're great for first-time owner-operators. There's no leasing. It's straight financing. They got all 5-year newer making models. They're doing a special right now. If you buy a truck from them, you get a $250 fuel card and a CB radio. Mention that you heard it on the Oakley Podcast. The best part about these guys is service after the sale, and that goes a long ways with us here at Oakley Trucking. So be sure and give them a call. Call Keith Wilson, 573-216-6047. Aero Truck Sales, Springfield, Missouri. Tell them you heard it on the Oakley Podcast. I got Mr. Jeff Porter here with Lubezone, and I want to give our listeners and our audience, because the majority of them are truck drivers, I want to give them a little history on you first, what you've done in your time,
sure,
maybe where you're from, just so we can associate with you, and then let's talk about some of this stuff going on at Lubezone.
Absolutely. So first of all, I'm thrilled to be here. This is a great thing you're doing, getting the word out to the drivers and your drivers on what's out there, and really, I admire what you're trying to do by giving these drivers all these resources, whether it's trucks, engines, all the things that they need options on. So you and I have been working together, I'm going to say almost 10 years ago.
At least, yeah. Probably whenever you started with Speedco.
Yeah. So, because I came to Speedco, I think, in 2010, 2011, and covered a good part of the U.S. with them. That was when they were owned by Bridgestone. And so in 2016, Speedco was sold by Bridgestone to Love's, and then 2 years later, our founder, Mr. Mark Clark, wanted to get back in the business. So what we did is we have everybody at Lubezone today. Most of us are prior Speedco people.
Gotcha.
who know the business, been around a while, and what we wanted to do was go back to fast as back and really bring back the 30 to 35 minute oil change, which really that's who we are. Lubezone is doing PMs in 30 to 35 minutes over the pit, get you in and out, back out on the road. A lot of people don't know who Lubezone is today, but a lot of your drivers out there, if they go, oh, you're Beeline or your Old Truck King or whatever, a lot of them have probably been in our stores at one time out there.
So that's Lubezone.
That's Lubezone. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got 11 locations. We're heavy in Texas, obviously. And then we have one in Sarah, Oklahoma, Carnesville, Georgia, and then 3 in Northern California. Our most recent acquisition build was in Laredo, Texas. And then the one we'll probably build next will be Dallas, Texas. So,
nice. So a lot of now it started. I was reading some of the information, and the first one was in Georgia. Is that the one?
First one was in Carnesville, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the first brand new one.
Is that because that's where some of the people that started are from, or is that just the location you picked?
I don't think there's any
Connection there?
connection there.
Okay.
I think it's, you got to understand, when Speedco was built 25 years ago, it was pretty easy to go along the interstate and get land and build stuff. It's harder to find stuff now in those areas because, the way they're building things up today. So.
But Lubezone is now, you're saying they've built 11, looking at another one pretty soon.
Yep.
And so you're finding that land adjacent to where truckers are. I'm assuming truck stops
Absolutely.
and much as you can to figure that out.
It gets harder to find in a
I
hurry.
bet that is
Yeah.
a challenge right there, just to find the location to put it in the right location.
It really is, Jeremy, because if you look at where most of our stores are today, typically we're right along the interstates where you're getting off, where there's a fuel island, a truck stop, whatever. So there's no inconvenience there. So we want to be in that truck stop lane where it's easy to access. Well, as these exits get built up by all kinds of businesses, we don't want to be 3 miles down the road.
Yeah.
That's not who we are. So,
How did all this? I know you've told me a couple times that Lubezone, you want to get back to like the fastest PM in the business, the 30-minute deal.
yes, sir.
How'd that come all about? I mean, and how are y'all planning on doing that?
Well, so we are doing it right now. Our 11 locations operationally, our average time is 35 minutes. So I mean, we're being very transparent, and that is, keep in mind, from the time you roll in the bay and over the pit. Okay, so you may be 1 truck back, you may be 2 truck back, but what's important to understand is when you pull into a Lubezone, you got to understand what we're doing is very quick. So you're not going to be there 4 hours. Whereas if you go to a truck stop or an OEM dealer or something like that, you can't just get in to get a PM done like what we do. And the reason we're able to do that is, number one, we have pits. So we're able to, we have a process from front to back, and then we have a crew chief who oversees. It's just basically like a pit stop in a race. So, you have a guy that's overseeing the crew, and that's can be a handful, 2 to 3 at one time. And we're doing a process. So, you have guys working the truck from top to bottom, so that, and you're going from front to back. We're very, very efficient in what we do.
35 minutes? That,
Yep.
That's, you go to on your lunch hour and
That's absolutely right.
People get a car oil changed, try to do that on their lunch hour and can't get that done in
That's right.
hardly 35 minutes, and you guys are doing big trucks.
Well, and for all these guys out here who maybe they're doing more extended drains on their old drains today, and they do a lot of fuel filter and lube services, cut that in half.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the fleets will be in there longer getting their authorization and PO process on a billing than they will in the whole service time.
Yeah,
So,
you're exactly right.
so our time is consistent. That's really what we're hanging our hat on is fast as back. There's some vendors out there today that will do some quick services, but nobody consistently say, hey, I can go in, be in and out in a very quick and timely manner and be back out on the road.
Besides oil changes, Jeff, what other services do you offer there?
Yeah. So we're right now in the Lubezone facilities, we're doing full PMs, okay? And then we do a lot of mid-service tractor, change out of your, fuel filters. We do APU services. We do generator services. We do federal annual inspections. And then we do some minor things like a mud flap or a light bulb, things like that. So we're not really and the full mechanical in the Lubezone side. However, when we get later into our conversation, I can talk a little bit about All-Star because that's a brand new acquisition. But with the Lubezones today, we're trying to keep it simple. We don't want to muddy up our process with a bunch of stuff, or our time, our timetable on a PM does get affected. We don't do tires, but we will adjust your tire air pressures, check all those while it's in the bay too. We can do CSA and federal annual inspections. And that's another nice thing, especially if maybe you have a fleet driver that needs his 90-day inspection updated, or, a sign-on or whatever. You don't have to go to an OEM dealer. You don't have to wait in line at a truck stop to get a federal annual inspection done.
Yeah, we run into that a lot because we have to get, our owner-operators have to have inspections done every so often, whether it's quarterly, semi-annually or annually. They have to have those done. So that's something we can do at Lubezone. What about the trailers? Can we get a trailer
You can,
inspected
absolutely,
there?
yes. So it's entirely optional. We have, some drivers are going to decide whether they want to do it or not. We have some fleets that will pay for that service as well. But you can get a $13.99 trailer lube, or you can get a full, works where we do a CSA inspection, fleet lube and air package where it's checking tires, lubing everything,
Nice.
checking minor CSA failed items. So
Nice.
you got several different things you can do there. Yeah.
What about, as well as I do, what makes a place good is the people that work there. You got to have the right people
Absolutely.
that are working there. That's what makes your company. And I would imagine finding technicians, I know we struggle with it out here in our own shop to find, technicians to work for us. It's pretty tough to find the good ones, and we got some good ones, but it's not easy to find them. How about Lubezone? What's y'all's? How do y'all go about finding good technicians and keeping them?
You bring up a great point, and I think it's a great thing to talk about.
Yeah.
For Lubezone, one of the, again, from our current management and being with them for years before, we really cultivate a very positive, more like a family-owned culture, okay, where, everybody's a team and really focus on their employees. So we're like every other maintenance provider out there. You're going to have your ups and downs on retaining help and things like that. But I can tell you proudly, we've got a lot of people that have been with us a long, long time, especially even the acquisitions we had that we've bought, where people have been there 20 and 25 years. So we've got some really good teams in place. So, and talking about the people, at the end of the day, there's three things really that I would say about Lubezone. One is our 35-minute oil change. And then the second thing, and I think it goes hand in hand with what you're talking about now, is people. And one of the things we're trying to do as Lubezone employees is when a driver is in the bay, is really focus on treating him like a person. As well as I do, when you go out today, I don't care if it's fuel provider, going to a hotel or a restaurant. We're just kind of a sheeple sometimes, and we really want to focus on those people. And, the owner-operators need consistent vendors that they can have work done and get the same process every time, and that they can go in and get treated like a king customer. So that's our second thing. And then the third thing that I really want drivers to understand is, especially with the owner-operators like with Oakley, is when that driver has his truck in the bay, what we're trying to do is give you full disclosure on everything that's going on that we see during that PM. So an example is, if we see a wheel seal leak, or your wipers are going bad, or your transmission and rear end is low, is to show you everything that we see as we're doing that PM service, let you know about it, and understand a lot of the stuff we can help you do. Some of it we can't, but we want to help you understand, hey, what are some service items on our trucks? And then what's important for these drivers to understand is, we have a great crew, but they're not on a commission program to sell you parts or upsell you a 4-hour shock job or whatever. We're there to, give you a very transparent look at that truck and not trying to sell you anything you don't need. So.
That's good to know, because any other place you go to, it's what else can I sell you type deal.
That's exactly right.
But it's your business to let the driver know that, hey, here's what we think. It's up to you, especially when you're dealing with owner operators.
That's absolutely right.
It's up to them, but I think it's good that you guys let them know, hey, here's what we see, but you're not obligated to, buy it here, upgrade. We're not pushing it on you, because that's the way a lot of people are going to feel, is they're getting that filter pushed on them, or the windshield wipers pushed on them, and that's good to hear that y'all are not like that, because that goes a long way with a driver, I imagine.
Well, and we want you back. In other words, we're not going to try to forego you coming back and feeling like we tried to give you a set of wiper blades you didn't need and things like that. And we also know, look, the owner-operators are businessmen. It's their business, their truck, and they're on a budget, They need an oil change today. Maybe they don't need an FAI today. Maybe they don't need a 3-box change, but they know the next time they come in, they can budget and know that they need it done.
Okay, that's perfect. Since you brought it up, returning customer, give us the lowdown on this rewards deal.
Absolutely, Jerry. I think we got one of the best driver rewards points program in the industry. We came out with it almost a year ago, and it's called our Lubezone Rewards. They can sign up at www.lubezone.com. And then if it's your first time in there, even in the Bay, if you're at checkout, a lot of those stores can help you sign up too. But what's great about it, we knew that we needed a rewards program to compete. Everybody has that. Yeah. All the truck stops, restaurants, things like that.
O'Reilly's. I use mine at O'Reilly's.
See, there you go. For that boat, right?
I'm always needing something.
But what I like about it is it gives them a lot of flexibility. It's basically a 1% back, but it's cash money. It's real money. So when they go in the first time and then they enroll, it'll initiate a debit card program, and that's where their points will be redeemed when they spend stuff, and points are readily available. It goes to a debit card, and the really nice thing about it is that those points can be redeemed as cash anywhere you go. So I'll throw you a couple examples. If the driver built up $100 and say 6 months later down the road he could apply it towards an engine air filter, or if he accumulated $100 on there, he'd go to Walmart and buy some stuff for the truck or fishing. You like fishing stuff, don't you, like Jeremy?
I try to go weekly to a fishing tackle store.
Are you going to be enrolling in our Lubezone Rewards?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
But it's very unique. So it gives you flexibility, and there's also even a referral bonus. So if you refer people, drivers that aren't on it, you can you get rewarded for that as well.
Well, those those things are popular nowadays, that's for sure, and because of it works, and that's word of mouth is how you get things, your good stuff, known about. So Lubezone, word of mouth, people start coming back. Oakley Trucking, you got a good company, people start spreading the word, and you start wanting to come to Oakley Trucking.
Absolutely.
Word of mouth is something you just have to do the best you can, whether it's rewards or anything. We do stuff too. We don't do, points or like a lot of places do, but we do monetary value, kind of like you guys do.
Yep.
to spread the good news about Oakley trucking. So
absolutely.
Good stuff, man. Talking to Jeff Porter with Lubezone and getting the lowdown on Lubezone. I like it. Whoever it is, I like to get just the history and what's going on and actually talk to the rep. I mean, I think our drivers will appreciate the conversation we're having today because of that. I mean, where they understand a little bit more about Lubezone. It always helps me. If I know a little bit more about it, then I'm more apt to go in there and use that.
Yes,
if I know a story about it. So it helps me. Earlier in the conversation, you were going to touch on All-Star or something. I didn't quite see it. You want to hit that now?
Exactly. So in October of last year, we purchased All-Star Truck Center or All-Star Truck Repair. They're out of Houston, Texas. And there's three things to that business that are really unique. One is they do mobile PM services on site. So if a fleet ever wants, or a driver is wanting to have a PM done somewhere in that area, we can do that. But we have an extensive repair facility there. So like for the owner-operators needing another shop outlet, in addition to OEM shops, we do a lot of extensive repair work there. We have a shop there in the Houston area off I-10.
Keep the same name? Keep the All-Star name?
Yeah, so it's going to stay All-Star,
okay,
even though Lubezone owns it. And then the other thing that's going to be really nice is, and we've given you, help the drivers with some repair labor for your drivers here, is they'll have access for 24-hour roadside service down there. So we'll service the full metro area with truck and trailer issues in that general area. And what we're trying to do is eventually combine those Lubezones in the Houston area, Baytown and Brookshire, where if a driver is in there and he has something mechanically done, we can get access to do that. Yeah. So we're gonna get involved in more of that. We see a great market for quick, mobile, full service type repair. We see, there's a great need out there for that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff, man. What else you want? You got anything else you'd like to cover? I feel like we've done a great job on covering material.
I think that does. Just probably three things to sum it up. Let the drivers need to understand, hey, we have all three of the major oil brands out there, Shell, Mobil, and Dello. We've got in every weight you're going to want. And then on the filter side, everything we put on your truck is OEM approved. Okay, we know by that engine when it rolls in the bay what oil, what filter we can put on it. We carry OEM filters, and then we have Fleet Guard and Baldwin filters as well. So the only last thing I'd really have to add is we started doing alignments in most of our bays. We don't have them in every one, but we're going to be doing those as well. So an example is Baytown and Brookshire, Texas.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And I want to thank you, too, before we get off of here. You had met one of our owner-operators out of the blue somewhere down in Texas,
yep.
And he called me and said, hey, man, I just ran into that Lubezone guy, and he gave me a free oil change. And he said, you don't know how much that has helped me, because he had been off with heart surgery, actually had heart surgery, and had been off for a couple of months there, and he wanted to tell me to thank you again, because it helped him so much just getting back on the road. It was just God sent. He said, it's crazy how that happens. And
yeah, that's awesome. We had a great conversation, and, you guys are a great group of people. You run a great company, and, we're excited to be partnering with you, because we know that your drivers, once they start coming in, I'm pretty confident most of them will come back, because we do a great job, and a lot of your drivers is just getting in to try us.
Getting it started.
Absolutely.
Then you start coming back. Okay, one more thing. I always like I should have done this in the beginning, but I like for people to know who we're talking about. So tell us what you like to do on the weekends, Jeff.
Well, About 3 years ago, I got back into team roping, and so that's where every dime that my wife and I have disposable income goes to, I guess, now.
So you do some team roping.
We do. We do a lot of fun stuff. We're not at a pro level. I did it when I was a kid, and I'm getting back into it. So getting back, it takes forever, several years to get back to where you can really go win. But we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of cowboy churches. We live in East Texas, between Dallas and the Arkansas line. But we go to a lot of cowboy churches. So the way I look at it is, even if I don't do good that day, we're with the right people and get to donate, and it goes to the right cause. So,
that's awesome.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
good stuff. So doing that roping, now you roping the head and then the back feet. Is that how
I'm
that works?
actually a healer. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm actually a healer, so I do the back end.
People are not right now going, well, he don't even know what he's talking about. And you're right, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm asking Jeff.
Absolutely.
Well, that's
Absolutely.
Good. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you stopping by today and
Thank you.
having this
Anytime.
conversation. It was really good, and I appreciate all our listeners listening to us. And the next segment to this episode is Lieutenant Doug Laferty. We're going to hear from him with the Arkansas Highway Police Department, and we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, we're talking to Doug Laferty with Arkansas Highway Police today, and got a few questions for him. We talked to Doug back on, I don't even know what episode it was, but it was a good one. We got some good detailed information. Doug is a DOT officer down at the Scale House in Hope, Arkansas, and gives us some really good feedback on what the DOT looks for, and just the communication between them and truck drivers, and it helps us out a lot too. And it's for our owner-operators to gain some knowledge of how DOT operates and make that connection, between the truck driver and the DOT, because a lot of times it's not it's a lot of times it's a bad connection there. It seems to be, but we want to close that gap, and help us do that is Doug Laferty with the Arkansas Highway Police. Hey, Doug, how you doing today?
Wonderful.
Appreciate you coming back on, man.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. This is awesome. I enjoy this.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I think it's great just to get some detailed info from you. What's going on down at the Hope Scales? Is it rolling now?
It is rolling. Today we've got both sides open. Got enough people and trying to get things going. Most everybody's haven't had any major problems today. Most of the drivers had all their stuff in line, so it's wonderful. That's the way we like it.
Is it now that there's the vaccines out and stuff? Are you seeing the traffic pick up? Is everybody over it? And the roads full again? Have you seen an uptick in that?
When this first month or so, the roads were dead. But after about that first month or so, the commercial traffic came right back with a vengeance. It's been rolling hard and heavy the whole time. And some of the non-commercial, that was what we really missed that first month and a half. But it's been going so long now that most people are just, keeping a little bit of distance when they're out of their vehicles, but on the roads, it's moving.
Yeah.
Everybody's back out.
I figure there's a bunch more four-wheelers back out on the highway, too. People have been cooped up for too long. They're hitting the highway.
Yeah. When I live close to the Texas state line, and when Texas started opening up restaurants so you can get you a steak, the highways come alive.
Yeah, people cooped up. They're ready to, like a caged animal, ready to get out and do something. I'm that way too. I haven't gone anywhere, I don't guess.
I don't. Yeah, I've worked all the way through it, but there's, on the weekends I get my little girl, and I'm tired of being cooped up myself.
Right. Hey, couple of questions we'll go through here, and let's see. And if you think of something also that you think, truck drivers need to know that will help them in their daily routine, please interrupt me and spit that out for sure. Are there any new rules, new things that they need to know off the top of your head that you can think of that you're looking for right now?
Some of the COVID exemptions state-wise, as far as there's some weight exemptions, those are starting to lift. the federal extended, so we still have that exemption. But other than new rules, I haven't seen anything since the September hours of service change. And, that one really, it was very friendly for the drivers on the 30-minute break, because, now it's just 30 minutes not driving. And 14, there's a lot of ways you can use that split sleeper berth.
Are you seeing guys really confused on that, Doug?
I'll be perfectly honest, everybody's confused on that one. It's a complex one because there's so many ways you can mix things. I was on a conference call with a federal auditor, a couple of our state people, and there were 4 of us. We all looked at it different. 2 of us come up with no violation, 2 come up with completely wrong. And, myself and one of our other state guys were telling them, no, you can do this, 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 and this, and there's no violation at all. And, it's a very complex one.
Makes it hard for you guys to enforce it, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Typically what we're going to do is, if there's a question, the phrase we use, tie goes to the runner, and if we're not sure on something, we're not going to write it down. It's better to let the driver get a pass. If we're not sure, then to write down a bad violation. So there's been a lot of them that are maybes that we're letting go.
It's probably, a lot of it's probably the companies, if they don't know for sure, they may be teaching it wrong.
They may be. A lot of times we're seeing where the ELDs are showing violations, and you look at it and you're like, how is it in violation? They just got off a 10-hour break, and 4 hours later it's showing a 14-hour violation, and we're just beside ourselves trying to figure it out.
Doesn't make sense.
And the ELD itself is showing violations. So it's that 14 is very confusing right now.
I can tell.
I'm hoping hoping they'll get us some guidance on easier ways to look at some of the stuff.
Yeah, I hear our safety director explaining it about daily to somebody, and how it works. Yeah. So it's something that you might look, and we did our safety director, we did a YouTube video, Doug, to explain it to our drivers under our Oakley Trucking YouTube page. And you ought to check that out and see if there's any flaws in that you think is confusing. But I think he did a good job on explaining that to a lot of people. And it's on our YouTube channel, Oakley Trucking YouTube, so you can check that out too. I know you guys got your work cut out for you.
I'll definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, just to make sure,
Oh, I'll take a look at it. I like anything that'll help me.
Right.
We met when I taught ours for the state. We ended up recording it, and do the best you can. But sometimes things just don't always make it. But man, I'll take any help I can get.
Hey, I got a question. And I meant to ask you this last time. We had talked about this always in recruiting, because we run into the scenario sometimes, Doug, that a gentleman will buy a truck in, say, Dallas, Texas, and he's got to be in Little Rock for orientation Monday morning. Well, he buys a truck Thursday or Friday and takes off on his way up here to Little Rock, but he doesn't have any permits and he doesn't have an ELD, because he's getting that when he gets here to Little Rock from his company he's going to. Do you guys, it's been rare, but we have had guys get ticketed for that and not having anything. What's the answer to that?
Let's start on the ELD. If they were working for another company and it's within the time period that we're going to look back at, the 8 days, they should have something, even if it's a paper log recreating their hours. Now, the fact that they don't have it for that day, that's fine, because you get 8 days in a 30-day cycle where you can run paper log. So we're not going to have any heartburn over that. What we normally see when that happens is, hey, I just started with this company. Okay, when'd you start? 3 days ago. And they'll have paper log for those 3 days. And, up to that point, everything's good. Then we'll ask them, did you work for anybody else? Yeah. When did you quit? oh, the day before I started with this company. Where's your logs from them? Well, I don't have them. And then you turn into a no previous 7 because the logs go with the driver, not the company. I understand the company has to keep a copy, but the driver needs a copy when he leaves so that if he gets stopped before he's got a full 8 days, you can check his hours. But as far as the no ELD, like I said, you get 8 days in a 30-day cycle. We're not going to have any heartburn over it. That's one of the exemptions. We run into that occasionally. I'm not going to say we're perfect. We've messed it up a few times, I'm sure, but I think for the most part we've caught that one, at least here. Yeah, just make sure they have a paper log, because if they don't have anything, you're driving at the company's request, so that is driving, and you got to have something. But a paper log will suffice until you can get up there to get it, as long as it's not over 8 days.
Okay. What about he doesn't have any decals, he doesn't have a DOT number, he doesn't have a cab card, he got maybe a temporary tag from the dealership that's on his way up here. So is that okay?
Each state has a grace period on registration. And as long as you're within your home state's grace period, you'll be fine. Arkansas gives a 30-day grace period before you have to have it registered. We're good there. No problems on that. Insurance, obviously you have to have insurance before you drive it off the lot.
Right.
So there's nothing we can do on that. I'll be perfectly honest. If you want to take a sheet of paper and a nice black marker and write your DOT number and name on the side, that'll get you up there. And we've had a lot of people do that. It doesn't have to be, the big official, super perfect ones, but that'll get you from point A to point B.
But the problem with that, Doug, is we as a company, so he's coming to work to Oakley Trucking. Well, he's coming to orientation. Well, we're not putting our DOT number on him because he hasn't gotten up here yet and taken a drug test and completed orientation, So we don't take a chance on. We don't give them anything to get here. They got to get here on their own to North Little Rock, Arkansas.
Right.
And so, once in a while, we have had a guy have problems, get a ticket, got stopped by somebody, that got real picky with him. Not at your place, but, other places, because he just bought a truck and didn't have any DOT numbers, no permits, no IFTA, nothing. I mean, he just coming to work. So,
right. And technically, he's not part of Oakley yet, is he?
Correct.
That's one of those weird spots that there's not a real good answer. What I would say is, keep your logbook, and on the others, that's where you hope the officer has a little bit of common sense and just says okay and lets you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, we do pull up past inspections, and if we see this guy didn't have anything back then either. Now I'm starting to wonder. But we've run across that once or twice I can remember, and we usually just try to apply some common sense. And
do you stop bobtails a lot? I mean, do you check them a lot, the bobtail? I mean, if they're bobtailing?
We do. Under the rules that they're still able to be inspected. Most of the time, they're just going to pick up a load in a trailer. There's no issues. But every now and then, we will run into the situation you're describing. Pretty uncommon, but I remember it a couple of times. The last one I remember, we were able to put it under. Driver himself had a DOT number, and we were able to put it under that one. But
gotcha.
That's just one of those not a real good answer for.
That's what we found out. That's what we have found out. I mean, we've asked that question to several, and I mean, it's almost like that.
Going by the regs.
Yeah.
You only get 30 days on a lease, and this is one of those situations that it just kind of falls between the cracks.
Yeah.
Wish I had a better answer.
No, that's good. I appreciate the honesty. What about coming up? I may be a little bit early, but when is the road check where y'all do that big 72-hour road check? Is that coming up pretty soon?
That is May something.
Oh, here it is. He got it right here. May 4th through 6th.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was May or June, but I knew it was early in the month. Yeah, May sounds right.
So May 4th through 6th, 72-hour. Give us a little. Can you give truck drivers a little insight on that and maybe how to prepare for it?
Do a good pre-trip. Make sure everything's right. We're going to be out doing level ones as much as we can. We'll have chase officers out if somebody bypasses the station. But it's a level one event. I think we're supposed to focus on lighting this year, which we're going to check lighting anyway. But it's going to be a level one event. I recommend just doing a really thorough pre-trip a couple weeks before. You're supposed to do a good one every day, but just do a really thorough one. Make sure everything's up. Check your brakes. Make sure that they've been adjusted if they need it. About all I can say.
Is that the most common violations you run into? Brakes and lights and
lights are very common. And let's face it, you're driving down the road, a bulb. Not all the roads are real great shape. Some of them will bounce. Bulbs break. They're filaments. They break. You're going to have some time. It happens. It's not possible to be completely right on every light every time. I have yet to see the individual that's fast enough to press the brake and then run to the back of the trailer and see if it's on.
Right.
It's just kind of you got to be quick.
Yeah.
But do the best you can. Make sure your logs are right. What we see a lot of times is on the log violations, it's either not putting your bill of lading number in or not having the backup paper log and the instruction sheet. And that sounds silly, but there's so many different log systems out there. We can't know how to make them all work. And that's why they've got that instruction sheet. But little stuff like that are killing safety ratings for the companies. And it's such an easy one to fix. Even if you want to have it on an electronic version on a tablet, you can do that. And that would make things so much better on the safety ratings for the companies.
Yeah.
And it's a simple fix.
We're seeing here at Oakley, just to be honest with you, we're seeing a uptick in speeding violations, and we can't figure out why.
Really?
Yeah, we can't figure out why because of the leniency they gave on the regs on the hours of service last year with the extending the hours and giving guys a little bit of a break on that. Well, and then all of a sudden our speeding violations have gone up, which is very frustrating to us as a company, and we're stressing, trying to get it down. You got any input on what you think why that would be or the cure for it?
I don't. I don't know how to solve that one.
Yeah.
It may be one that time's just going to have to tell, and enough guys are going to have to get stopped. There's a lot of research on a law enforcement side that the more traffic enforcement we do, the less wrecks there are. And that's one of the reasons we try and do that. One of the main causes of wrecks is speed and following too close and inattentive driving. So, those are things that we look at. I know most of us will give a cushion, that a few miles an hour, but I don't know. I don't know the way to solve it. I wish I did.
Well, and I didn't know if there was a push sometimes by the DOT to, hey, that's what, crack down on speeding or, that's speeding on truck drivers.
In every law enforcement organization, you're going to have one or two that are going to be, hey, we need to really. But Arkansas has a wonderful law that prevents law enforcement from putting quotas and in any kind of bad thing. It's always up to the officer. And I know that's hard to believe, and it sounds crazy, but nobody tells us when we have to. So, I mean, each officer's got a different, on back highways for non-commercial vehicles, I give people 13 miles an hour before I write a ticket. Don't ask me why I settled on 13. But, I mean, it's each officer's discretion on when they write one.
That's good.
Are there always a couple of people that say, hey, we need more tickets? Well, of course. They look at the research, and it's true. The research does say the more tickets and the more traffic, the less accidents. But it always comes back down to the individual's officer's choice. Typically 4 or 5 over, you're probably going to be okay. 10, you're on the bigger trucks because there's so much more chance of damage, and because of the extra mass, you're probably running real close to getting one at that point. But like I said, there's no rule. It's always officer's choice.
Well, around here, Oakley, we were asking that same question: why is the speeding violations go up? Why have they gone up past year? And you know what most people's answer is here?
I'd love to hear it.
Recruiting department. They hired a bunch of lead-foot drivers. You believe that? I don't believe that. Because we're not.
Well,
we ain't hiring no lead-foot drivers. That's what they get around here.
We
Blame it on
check
recruiting.
With the shoemakers. I have heard that they put a lead layer in some shoes recently, so we might need to check their shoes also.
Yep, that's a good idea. I'm going to start doing that in every orientation, checking shoes. So
hey.
You never know. Hey, I've got. I'll throw you a curve here. It just hit me because you had a couple good stories last time. You got any good, crazy, funny stories that you've encountered lately? Some of the weirdest stuff you've run into, or some of the most shocking you can't believe?
We're getting a lot more marijuana out of the larger trucks, and it just amazes me how much more we're seeing of that. We pulled one in the other day, and it was recreational from one of the recreational states, and it was almost 40% THC. I mean, literally, you walked up, by the time you got to the back of the sleeper cab, it done grabbed you by the nose and was kicking you in the pants how strong the smell was. And this dude was surprised that we could smell it. And I find that shocking.
So he was hauling it?
No, that was his personal use.
Oh.
He had bought some in Colorado or California, and it was 40%.
So what'd you do?
Our jail's not accepting inmates, so we didn't take him to jail, but I don't know how much the ticket cost. He got that. Obviously, all of his drugs were seized, and all of his pipe and his this, that, and the other. 24 hours out of service. Under our state law, it's an automatic suspension of your driver's license for 6 months. Under the federal, I don't really go there often, but I think it's a 1-year disqualification. So, I mean, it's going to be a long-term hurt for him.
Did this guy
he's able to get back to drive?
Did he act like it was okay, or?
He knew it was wrong, but he didn't think it was a big deal because they're going to make it legal soon. Was his answer. And I always say, yes, sir, you're probably right, but let's look at that soon part.
Not now.
And we have been seeing a lot more of that, just across the board.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is. 80,000 pounds going 70 miles an hour. And I understand it doesn't do some of the effects of other drugs, but it does slow your reactions.
Wow.
And 80,000 pounds is a lot of weight.
So have you run?
I'm still finding that just more shocking.
That is shocking that you're seeing more and more of that. And yeah. It's crazy the path it's going down sometimes, but
yeah.
Any other ones?
Brakes on fire and still going down the road thinking it's okay. We had one that I'm at the 26-mile marker. State line is the 1. We had one that got checked on by a trooper at the 7-mile marker, and they were calling somebody to fix it. So they took a chain, and what it was is he had lost both wheels on a dual set. So he took a chain, tied it up, and was driving 40 miles to get it repaired. So, he had to come right past us. He started at the 7. We found him at the 26. And he just couldn't imagine why we had issues with the big gouge he was putting in the highway and all these other things.
Oh, man.
Kind of blew my mind. Sometimes you just wonder.
Yeah.
But,
well, I know you got an interesting job. You see it every day. You see a lot of that stuff every day, different things.
Well, and for every one that you just shake your head and wonder about, there's probably 5 dozen that come past that they're just really good people. So I have to remind myself of that every now and then, because the vast majority of the drivers out there, they're really good guys. They won't hurt anybody. They'll do whatever they can. But you have some knuckleheads that ruin it for the rest of the world.
And that's the truth.
And that's what I see a lot. Most of good people.
How's
they're
our
just the average person?
How's our Oakley owner-operators looking coming through your place down there in Hope?
I've not seen any inspections on Oakley in a pretty good bit. So
All right.
Probably doing pretty good.
Good sign then, Doug. Good sign.
I'm sure that makes you happy.
Yes, it does.
I'm sure y'all.
I think.
I'm sure you'd appreciate some clean inspections, but I don't remember seeing any.
I think Texas makes up for them. I think they.
Oh, do they?
They do a bunch of
They
them.
get you pretty heavy.
Yeah, they get us pretty good. So, well, man, I appreciate you calling and doing this with us again. It really is helpful. You got anything else you want to add before we run out of time?
Glad to be here. I mean, it's kind of something I look forward to. If any of the drivers have questions, feel free to stop. If you make it past the sign where we have our stop signs and all, you pretty well free to come on in and ask questions, and we're not going to give you a hard time.
Oh, that's good to know.
If you got questions, come on in. I'll sit down with you and do everything I can to help. We greatly appreciate somebody trying to do right, and we'll help you every bit we can.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, Doug. You have yourself a good rest of the week and weekend, and appreciate all the good information you give out to our owner-operators, and we'll talk to you next time, man.
Oh, anytime. Just give me a call.
All right, brother. Thank you a lot. Okay, folks, that's all the time we have for this episode of the Oakley Podcast. I want to thank my guests. I also want to thank our listeners for your continued support of our program. Please help us spread the word by sharing the episode of the Oakley Podcast, and be sure and follow us on all the social media platforms. If you're interested in contacting Oakley Trucking, give us a call. We'd be glad to answer all your questions and talk to you about leasing on with Oakley Trucking. As always, I'm Jeremy Kellett, and we'll see you next week with a brand new episode of the Oakley Podcast.